Look at these two video game graphics. Which one looks better? If you said B, you're kidding, right? Some of my favourite indie games of the last few years are ones that have received widespread critical acclaim, but they all have a particularly odd thing in common. They were all released in the last decade but look like a product of the 1980s. I'm talking of course about the art style that these games employ, known as sprites. Generally speaking, sprites are a form of digital graphics in which characters and backgrounds are made up of small 2D pixels, usually within 2D games. Sprites have been around pretty much as long as video games have, but the ones that gamers will remember most dearly are these original versions of its most famous mascots, which emerged through the 80s and 90s on 8-bit and 16-bit consoles like the SNES and the Mega Drive. But as we've seen through the likes of Shovel Knight, Celeste, Undertale and The Messenger, this style remains very popular, even though visual capabilities have become much more sophisticated. This hit me when I was playing through the fantastic Super Mario Odyssey, the plumber's latest outing on the Switch. In an early stage you're faced with a tall cliff that you have to climb. When you pop into a nearby pipe, Mario reverts to his sprite form and you scale the cliff by completing a mini old school 2D platforming level. When I first saw this I was grinning from ear to ear. And I think these little pixelated segments are a really charming way to decorate the larger 3D world, especially when they're used as moving hieroglyphs in the Egypt themed area. However, when you get to the end of the game, you get the option of another old school appearance, an outfit that turns Mario into his Super Mario 64 form. The difference is, I just laughed at this one. It's a nice reference, but this blocky polygonal Mario looks so bad and dated in the modern gaming landscape. But why is that? Why do sprites get a pass and polygons don't when they are technically a more modern art form? Why did I smile at one but laugh at the other? An obvious answer is nostalgia. We love to look back at the media and culture of our past, especially in this day and age when it's so easy and exciting to share your recollections with other people online. Just look at how many modern films and TV shows bait people in with references to yesteryear. A couple of years ago, the writer Patrick Metzger did an article called The Nostalgia Pendulum, in which he suggested that every 30 years, the popular culture of that time sees a bit of a renaissance and becomes widely appreciated again. I think we could start applying this to games as well. People currently in their late 20s and 30s grew up through the height of gaming's classic age, so maybe it's not surprising that such old school visuals are making a comeback as these gamers grow up and become indie developers themselves, using what they remember from their youths as inspiration. Or, as Mr. Metzger puts it, gives them comfort and clarity in their ambitions. It's not just indies though. The AAA title Octopath Traveler was made by the famed developers Square Enix, for whom it's a throwback to their classic SNES RPGs like Final Fantasy VI and Chrono Trigger. And similarly, Nintendo's modern Pokemon and Fire Emblem titles use sprites as avatars and menu icons in otherwise 3D rendered worlds. But I also don't think nostalgia alone answers the question. After all, we still hold plenty of nostalgia for the 64-bit era as well. I also don't think it's a case that we see so many sprite-based games these days because they're easier to make. After all, creating truly great, intricate pixel art can be just as challenging as chiseling 3D models. I think the flatness and consistency of sprites means that we view them the same way we view other classic forms of media, like hand-drawn cartoons or comics. Put simply, they have a timeless quality. Polygons, on the other hand, aren't seen as art as much as they are a reminder of more primitive technology. Bringing video game worlds into 3 dimensions was a move to make them more realistic and immersive, but these kind of graphics are also much more intensive to process, especially for consoles like the Nintendo 64 and the PlayStation. I think that's actually a PS2 controller, but pretend you didn't see that. We take sleek, rounded visuals for granted these days, but as technology continually improves, the 3D efforts of the 90s get left deeper in the dusts of time. Sprites have weathered this change more easily. I mean, at one point Super Mario 64 was hailed as visually stunning and its world seemed vast and rich, but nowadays it's hard not to see them as little more than a collection of rough isometric shapes and textures. Compare it to its sprite-based predecessor Super Mario World on the SNES though. Only a fool would argue that that game needs any kind of updating. There have also been a few games in recent years that have taken direct influence from old school 3D platformers, like A Hat in Time and Yooka-Laylee. The latter, like Super Mario Odyssey, even had an option to revert to horrible 64-bit graphics as a bit of kitschy humour. But otherwise, these games are designed to modern standards. While the developers wear their influences on their sleeves in terms of paying homage to the likes of Banjo-Kazooie and Spyro through these games, if they presented them in the same blocky fashion, they'd be laughed out of today's industry. When it all boils down, sprites are art. Polygons are a technological limitation. Cheers for watching the video. Be sure to subscribe to BBC The Social Gaming if you'd like to see more. What sprite and polygon based games do you remember fondly? Are there any you think have aged particularly well, or badly? And what modern sprite games do you enjoy? You know what to do.